Hey, everybody, we're back. It's Thursday live at 7, or if you're listening to this podcast on Friday, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We have another incredible guest. I can't wait to introduce her. I've actually known about her. I haven't known her personally for a while, but I've known about her for a while just because we were both in sports TV, which if you guys have listened to this for a while, you know that I retired or quit my job in sports TV for the betterment of animals. And she's gone along that same path. She's still in TV, which I don't think, Alanna, I don't think you could ever leave TV. You're just too good. But obviously, guys, I was behind the scenes. She is in front of the camera and does a great job. But I'm really excited to introduce you to her, and also all of the great work that she's doing with animals. And we recently connected via Live Like Rue to help a dog named Madeline, who I can't wait to introduce you to as well. We've got some great pictures of what she went through and where she is now, which is just incredible. So wanted to take a quick time out for our sponsors, and then we'll bring Alanna on. Unmuzzled is presented by the following sponsors. Bark Pouch. Bark Pouch believes there's no greater joy than a delightful time with your dog or dogs, plural. We like a lot of dogs around here. So they make irresistible lickable treats that are easy to use while walking, training, grooming, familying, friending, and even vet visits. Check them out, barkpouch.com. Kiki's Corner Natural Pet Foods in downtown Winfield, Illinois, just a block south of CDH Hospital on the railroad tracks. Kiki's has all your food and health aid needs for dogs and cats. Kiki's Corner for a healthy, happy pet. Canine Cruise is the place to take your pet. They offer dog and cat boarding, dog daycare, pet retail, and mindful day school. With over 12,000 square feet of indoor space and a spacious yard, they are the one-stop shop for professional pet care in Chicago. Thanks so much to the sponsors. I really appreciate you guys help me with my monthly fees and things like that. I really appreciate it. Alanna, welcome to the podcast.
It's funny that you say that, Sarah, that I'm in front of the camera and you're behind the scenes, because if you're looking at us now, it looks opposite. You look beautiful. It's so great to see you. I was so really looking forward to connecting with you on this. I've known of your work for a long time as well, you know, through Kelly Kroll, who used to cover the Chicago Cubs, of course, and now is with the Atlanta Braves. But not only that, just in the rescue world, I've followed a lot of what you've done. So it's awesome to be with you. And I love that you have sponsors. Thanks so much to Kiki's Corner and to Canine Cruise, and obviously to Bark Pouch, which I will be going to right after this to get some stuff. The other two are in Illinois. I'm in Massachusetts, but we can certainly support those that are supporting you. That's great.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. So, Alanna, I did want to start with kind of the personal side of it, because as anybody listening knows, in my first podcast, I brought up, you know, my move from TV to, you know, really doing Live Like Rue full time. But, and also I had to start pet care because unfortunately, when you work in a nonprofit sector, you just don't want to take away from the animals. And as wrong as that is, and I've watched a great TED Talk on that at one point, where really nonprofit people should be making the most money because they're doing so much good. But I know for you, you know, it was probably a tough decision, but you're still in TV, and now you're able to do even more of what you love, which I think matters. But you were with the Dodgers for a long, long time. And I think being with the team for that long, it had to be a little bit tough for you to leave.
Yeah, it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. I covered the Los Angeles Dodgers for 7 seasons, and now I'm with Major League Baseball Network. I'm on a show called High Heat on Monday through Friday with Chris Russo. It's his show. I'm a contributor on the show with him. But you know, all I've done is sports television for the last 20 plus years, and specifically baseball for, you know, the last 10, 15 years. So it's been an interesting journey, but one that I've really been blessed to have and fortunate to have. After the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020, he was my fiance at the time. We're married now, but he had a job change too, and he wasn't going to be traveling as much. And we had dated, 5-6 years coast to coast, and that was difficult. And he has 2 small children that live on the East Coast. And at a certain point, it's like, how long can we, realistically do this? And I really struggled with the decision because the Dodgers treated me so well. I loved my job. Obviously, it's a team that, they put on the field every single year as a contender, and they compete. And, I did 200 games this season. And, when you're with that team every single day from the first day of spring training until deep into the postseason. You're with them more than you're with your own family. So it was a difficult decision, but I finally gotten to the point in my life, and I'm sure you can appreciate this too, and your listeners can appreciate it. I needed work-life balance, because in sports television, you don't get any balance. And so it was time to get to the point where I put my personal life first, and thankfully Major League Baseball was willing to take me back. I had worked there before my Dodgers job. So, I guess that's one silver lining of COVID. We all have setups in our house now, right? Like this mic, I never had this before. And, so now I can do the show remote and, still put a lot of time into baseball, but also be able to dedicate a lot of stuff to Guidry's Guardian Foundation as well. Cause, that's my passion project. It's just me. I don't take a salary. Like I don't have anything like that, but we're small. We're nothing like what you guys do. And we don't have the reach that you do. But, I always said, if I could leave LA better than I found it, then I did my job. And hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible too for you to use the amazing platform that you have for these animals, which I think means a lot to you personally, because you do have an amazing platform and you've got a great reach, obviously in LA and now Massachusetts. But before we do anything else, because there's always a dog behind every story, right? Live Like Rue, it's Rue, Cisco, he was in the shelter. So you've got to tell us about Guidry, and I can't wait to show us pictures because he's absolutely adorable.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to just talk about him. I didn't grow up with dogs. I didn't have dogs as a part of our family fabric. And there he is. There's my Bubba. I miss him so much. He actually, unfortunately, passed away 3 weeks after I launched his foundation in 2019. But I adopted Guidry out of the Humane Society of Boulder Valley in Boulder, Colorado, back in 2009. He was 4 months old because he was born in October of 2008. So I adopted him in 2009, and really it just opened up my eyes and my heart to the need for foster and adoption. I didn't realize how much of an epidemic it is of animals just being abandoned and surrendered and abused and neglected. And adopting a dog, and he was a border collie and incredibly smart, as you can imagine, with that type of breed, and really just gave me a sense of purpose. At the time I didn't have kids. I don't have biological children of my own, but obviously anybody that has a kid or a dog knows that they are your children. And just really gave me a sense of purpose. And through him, I just realized that there was a massive need out there to promote adoption and fostering and those types of things. So in his honor and in his name, we've been able to, have our hands in helping a lot of dogs. More on the financial side of things, we don't physically pull dogs out of shelters. We don't have a brick and mortar. But Guidry was the reason behind all of this. And I, like I said, I adopted him in 2009. He passed away in 2019, but he is absolutely the reason that I even have a foundation. So I'm grateful to him for that. And, his legacy lives on.
Yeah, and that's what I always say to people. We call them Rue dogs once we help them. They're kind of like into our family now. And I think kind of that's what you do. You really embrace the community. I know your main things are raising awareness, which is huge for your pages, even if it's a share from a rescue that you work with, rescuing animals and then finding homes, it's so important. It was really important in LA, and I'm sure it's really important where you are now. But I know, starting a foundation, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you start a 501c3? And a lot of times I tell them, like, if I knew what was in store, I'm not sure I would do it, because it's so easy to get the actual 501c3. But when you go through your taxes and you figure out accounting and you try to get grants and it's really, really hard. So what do you think is kind of like the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
For me, it's to make sure you have people in your corner that know how to do those things that you just mentioned. I was able to connect with a group called the Players Philanthropy Fund, and PPF is basically my administrative arm. So they handle all of the back of the house stuff. So they handle my taxes. They handle physically, cutting the checks for the grants that, we've sent to Live Like Rue or whoever, those types of things where they physically, there's Butterscotch, physically do things that I don't have the time the brain capacity, the bandwidth to even understand. If I had to do all of my own taxes and had to do all of that stuff, I don't know that this ever would have happened. So, I was able to connect with them because they do a lot of philanthropic work and back of the house stuff for a lot of professional athletes. And, in the realm that I'm in sports television, I've been able to get connected with athletes that have their own, philanthropies and their own foundations and those types of things. So that is how I do all of that stuff. But I don't have a staff. I do all of my own fundraising. I do all of my own marketing. I do all of my own, everything. Because like you said at the beginning of this, you feel like if you take anything, it's taking away from animals. And I'm just not that big. We're not that large. Like we are not an ASPCA. We're not anything to that capacity where we have millions of dollars of donations coming in. So a lot of what I do is because of my baseball platform, whether it's Dodger tickets or, Dodgers are playing the Red Sox this year at Fenway. So a great supporter of ours was able to donate her 2 tickets. And, we raise money based off of that. And then it goes straight to the animals. So every cent goes to animals in need. But that's the biggest thing. It's like, you're right. Getting the 501c3 is not that much of a difficult issue. It's all of the other stuff and making sure that you're in compliance and not only tax compliance, but legal compliance, and that you have insurance and those types of things that are way over my head and my skill set.
Yeah. And I will say, I used to. I don't do it as much anymore because Live Like Rue and we're like Switzerland, right? Like, so we're not competing for these animals in the shelter. We just want to help the ones that aren't well or need our help. So it really bugs me when people aren't in compliance, especially rescues who never do their taxes. And I sit here and do an audit every year with our accountants because I want people to see where every single penny goes. I want you to know how much I make. I want you to know how much my staff makes. I want you to know how much goes to merch, So that's so like an audit is so important to me. So the rescues that aren't in compliance and kind of fly under the radar sometimes with taxes, it drives me nuts. And unfortunately, like, we can't help them because I need all my ducks to be in a row. So good on you. And that's one of the things that I learned the hard way is like, you've got to get those people in your corner. I have an accountant now, I have somebody on staff that just does our care packages, and I have a medical team because medical stuff blows my mind. Like I don't have the brain capacity to fill all of the medical information into my brain. But on that same vein, talking about the toughest, what has been the most fulfilling for you?
Oh gosh, I think, just seeing a dog, I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples, before the launch of the actual foundation, before we were a 501c3, before it was official, before we had anything going on, I'll never forget this day. I was at Dodger Stadium. We were basically in the 4th or 5th inning, so middle innings of the game. And a colleague called me like hyperventilating, crying his eyes out because he had seen a dog. At first I thought it was just a trash bag on the side of the road, but he had seen a dog hit and run on the 110 by the University of Southern California, USC. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'm in the middle of a game, on air, that type of thing. I said, just get him to an emergency vet. So we were trying to figure out, again, I knew nothing at this time. This was back in 2018. And I said, just get him to a vet. We'll figure it out later. And, we named him Spencer. I fostered him for maybe, 2 or 3 days. I didn't know what the heck. I didn't have a foster network. I didn't know anything, what we were doing. Very long story. His bills, he had collapsed lungs, a crushed jaw. He was a mess because he had been hit, by a car and left to die on the side of the road. So we got him all of this medical stuff, was able to, raise quite a bit of money, just through the platform of the Dodgers, just on, Twitter and Instagram and just on my personal page, like not even Guidry's at that point, because that didn't even exist yet. And people were very generous, and we were able to get him the medical care that he needed. And then a good friend of mine, her name is Ashley Keever, she contacted me. There's 3 things I love, Sarah, and not necessarily in this order: dogs, wine, and baseball. So Ashley and her family contacted me, and they happen to own a vineyard in Napa, Keever Wines. And she said, hey, I'm really interested in adopting Spencer. So my friend and I, Jill Painter Lopez, who's also in sports journalism, We took a trip. We took Spencer up to Napa, and he is now the winery dog at Kiever Wines, and he runs around the vineyard all day long, and then he goes home with his mom, my friend Ashley, and her husband and their daughter, and he now has a baby brother as well, a human brother, and he went from being hit and run and left for dead on the side of the road in the interstate in California to living on a vineyard in Napa Valley. So when you see those types of things happen, his name is now Jagger. They changed his name, and he's the winery dog. And people go there and do tastings, and they get to hang out with him. And he still can't close his mouth all the way, and because his jaw was a mess, but he's loving life and living the best life. So things like that, have really given me a lot of joy. And I mean, this is a passion project, and nobody gets into rescue to make money. And I can understand why there is such a high, the reality is there's such a high suicide rate in rescue, because the supply of dogs that need help will always be greater than the demand of people willing to do the help. And especially right now, this is the worst. I mean, our shelter systems across the country, and certainly Chicago notwithstanding, major, big cities like Chicago, Dallas, Miami, Los Angeles, New York, and down south, it is an absolute crisis situation where the rate of abandonment and surrender and neglect just far supersedes anything that the shelter system can handle. And they're euthanizing hundreds of thousands of dogs per year just because of overcrowded shelters, not even because there's, any behavioral issues or medical issues. There's just no space. It's an epidemic. So when I get to see these, success stories, like a Spencer, like a Madeline, who we'll discuss, that you guys were so generous to help, it proves that, okay, we're doing some good things. So yeah, so this is crazy. So there on the left is Easton. And this dog was rescued, pulled out of the shelter by the Powerful Rescue, and they do a phenomenal job. They were in Southern California, and now they are in Texas, and they take on incredibly, incredibly difficult cases. To where a lot of medical cases, just really, really severe neglect. I wish you could see what that dog, I should have done the before picture, just the skin issues and stuff that this dog had, and obviously living his best life. In the middle, that's Naya. Again, it was an oops litter. That's another thing that's a huge problem, particularly in Southern California. People don't spay or neuter their animals. And they just, they're backyard breeders. They just allow their dogs to get out. They don't do the proper vaccinations. So this was a case of somebody that had a oops litter and was just giving dogs away on Craigslist. And that's such a dangerous thing to do. So we were able to get Naya placed with some friends of mine. Actually, it's a couple of girls that were ball girls for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they're a couple. It's a woman by the name of Amy Moore and her wife, Christina. And they adopted Naya, and Naya is just so spoiled, absolute diva. And then Big Boy on the right was another dog that was basically a stray, ended up in the shelter. Somebody adopted him to save his life, but couldn't keep him. And then we were absolutely scrambling to try to find a foster home. So again, because of my position with the Dodgers, a family by the name of the Delgadillos, they reached out to me. Patty and Frank Delgadillo and their 3 daughters reached out and said, hey, we'll foster him. So again, this was also in connection with the Powerful Rescue. And they started fostering him, and he was a senior boy. He was about 13 years old when we got him out of the shelter. And they ended up being a foster fail, and they loved on him for another 3 years. And actually, he just passed away about 3 weeks ago. So those are just 3 of the examples of, some of the things that we do, and we try to help rescues. We're kind of like a rescue for rescues, much like you are, where we helped with all the medical, I'll do the, initial vetting, the overall vet visits. Easton that was a big medical case there with all of the skin issues and those types of things. And but that type of stuff is really rewarding, when you see them placed in a home. And, I always ask people, please, continue to tag us on stuff. We want to see the progress. We want to see how they're doing. Set up an Instagram page for them. Because as you are, I want to be as transparent as possible. And I want the donors to see where their money is going. People need to know because, everyone is fighting for those donor dollars, right? And there is a thing called donor fatigue and people get tired of it. And, we're living some tough times right now. And this is disposable income for people. And you have to be able to give them a reason why they should spend their hard-earned dollar with you. So I always ask rescues, like, you have to tag us. You have to continue to update us. And again, to your point, if you're not registered as a 501c3, if you're not registered with the Attorney General, if you're not paying your taxes, if you have any complaints against you, we legally can't support you because that's on us. So, there's so much that goes into it. I got into this thing like, I'm just going to save every dog in the world.
Totally.
And you get kicked in the teeth every day, but,
but it's so true. That should be on a t-shirt or something. It is interesting too, what you said just about, the sad state of especially open admission shelters. So in Chicago Animal Care and Control, many of Medic in Milwaukee, which are local, but obviously LA, New York, everybody has an open admission shelter. Some of them are much bigger, but I think the sad part of it really is we were on such a high during COVID because everybody was adopting dogs and rescuing animals and fostering. And then it's just now like a huge drop. And it really, really is hard to see. And I think too, one of the reasons that I left my volunteer work at Chicago Animal Care and Control is because that weighed on me. Every day I was playing God for these animals. Okay, this one passed this test and this one did not. And relaying that to a vet team and then the next day that dog not being there, that is just it's too much. I could only do it so much.
God, which one gets to be saved today and which one doesn't? You're absolutely right. That's what it feels like, and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, especially for you too, because you're kind of deciding, okay, we're putting all our money towards this dog that might have mange, but that before and after picture is going to be incredible. That's going to be proof of what we do. Whereas this dog might, and our, amputations and chemo are a huge deal for us. It costs a lot of money, but they could save a dog's life. And unfortunately, with our foundation, we see a lot more sadness, unfortunately, than success stories. But I do want to bring up Madeline, if you don't mind, Alanna, because I'm just telling those of you that are watching right now, some of these pictures might disturb you a little, but this is the reality. So here is what I saw initially, and I know that we got tagged on it a lot. And Alanna, I know I reached out to you saying that we could help. And it actually all ended up working out beautifully. But can you kind of tell us like how you ended up,
and you were so wonderful to reach out to me. I didn't even have time to sit down and reach out to you. That's how wonderful you are, just on top of things. But Madeline was a dog that basically, another situation, overbred, neglected, when she was no longer profitable or when she was to the point of being so ill that, they just couldn't be bothered. They just, dumped her. So she was a stray. I stand with my pack, pulled her. And again, we don't have pull rights, nor do I want them. But I stand with my pack, pulled her. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, we really want to help with Madeline's medical. As you can see, she has a massive mass on her mouth. And that was obviously very painful and giving her some issues. So they pulled her, and then she got there she is in her little ducky stuff. I love it so much. She got the mass removed, and it was still bothering her a little bit, but she was able to, they did some other stuff and in terms of dental work and be able to, make her feel better. And, they were in a position too, where they really couldn't take on another medical dog either. I mean, every single rescue is overwhelmed. Nobody has fosters. Nobody has the money. But the need is there, and it's so difficult to turn your away. Once you see her, how can you possibly turn away knowing she's suffering as much as she is? So she got into foster. Yeah, that's an LA dog if I've ever seen one. So she's doing great. She was in foster care and she has been adopted, and she is she's doing a wonderful job. So kudos to I stand with my pack for pulling her, getting her the vet care that she needed, getting her into a proper foster home where she could heal and decompress, because this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Sarah, you know better than anybody. I mean, it takes a good 3 to 6 months for these dogs to feel comfortable. And oftentimes when they're pulled, let's say she didn't have any physical issues that were visible. oftentimes when dogs are pulled from their shelter, they're finally away from that fight or flight syndrome. So then all of the stuff that's wrong with them starts to creep up, because then their body finally relaxes. I mean, think about when you're super busy for a month and then you finally get like a 2-day vacation and your body relaxes and then you get sick, you get a cold or whatever, because your immune system is just so shot. That's what happens to these dogs in shelters. But she's doing great. And she's been adopted, and you reached out and said, hey, we want to help. And we had offered or promised a $2,000 grant to I Stand With My Pack. And you were able to cover that. And we're just so grateful that you were able to do that. So we were able to raise money for her and give her the excess. And obviously you were able to make us whole too. So we're so grateful, because we're super small. So we really have to, and I run the foundation, like, I run my own checkbook. Like, I don't take on more than I can handle, because like, I just don't ever want people to think that we're not being transparent, or the money's not going where it's supposed to go, or that type of thing. So I'd rather be, tiny but mighty than huge and people wonder, you know what I mean?
It's so smart. So that leads me to my last question. What does the future hold? Do you feel like you want to just take it day by day, or do you have like a 5-year plan? Or are you just
No,
gonna go with the flow?
that's a great question. Maybe we should have more conversations about this. I really don't know. I want Guidry's to be more nationwide. Most of our reach right now is in Southern California, just because that's where I was located when we started this thing. And Dodger fans are great fans. I had quite a few people follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. And a lot of the people that have, certainly a lot of the donors, but a lot of the people that have offered to foster, a lot of the people that have adopted some of the dogs that we've presented. That's an interesting story. That's Ollie, was thrown out of a car and had some issues, obviously, had to have surgery. I want to say his pelvis was broken and all of that stuff, and was thrown out of a moving vehicle, and got him into foster. I assisted with, at the time it was Angels for Animals. Laura Garrick was associated with that rescue at the time, and Lauren Krieger. And Laura Garrick and I are still very heavily involved together in the rescue world. And he's doing great. He was in foster for a little bit. In fact, Naya, the little black dog in the middle of those three, her moms found a foster, and he was adopted, but then it didn't work out. So we found another one. And Trent Taylor and Sarah Taylor, at the time, Trent Taylor was a defensive back for the San Francisco Giants. And then now he plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. But Sarah drove all the way to Los Angeles from Northern California when she saw Ollie. His name is now Howard. He has another brother, a fur brother that looks exactly like him. I swear they were separated at birth someplace, but he's doing great. He's doing great, but I would like to do more, more nationwide, and help more rescues in this area. Fortunately, where I live now, there's not necessarily as big of a need as there is in Southern California. Is a mess when it comes to dogs. We are overcrowded shelters with pit bulls, huskies, German shepherds, chihuahuas. Of course, the Game of Thrones craze, when they all had the dire wolves, everyone thought it would be a great idea to go and get a husky, not realizing the demands that breed has. And now the shelters are overcrowded, and dogs, huskies, German shepherds, pit bulls, who I think are the greatest breed. They're getting euthanized by the dozens on a daily basis, sometimes without warning, and not nearly enough time for rescues to even be able to act. So I want to keep doing more of what we're doing. I still work full time in Major League Baseball. So it's difficult for me. And again, I'm by myself, so I don't have a staff, but I just want to, like I said, I wish I could save them all. My husband's like, you're insane. But I don't know. Someday I could kind of see myself like on a board of another foundation if this one takes off, or I don't really know. And I guess that's the beauty of it. Once it becomes to the point where it's a burden, then I'll figure it out. But if I can continue to help dogs, and people can continue to want to donate, and we can continue to do it, there's no reason to stop.
Yeah, I love that. And pretty incredible that you grew up with no dogs, and now look at you. I mean, that speaks volumes, honestly, and just how one dog has changed the lives of so many other people. It's awesome. Thanks. Great work by you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, our dog right now, Bentley, I love country music, and I wanted a Dirks and a Bentley, but she doesn't like other dogs. So right now it's just Bentley. But she lived in Bakersfield, California. I was actually going up there to do a welfare check on 2 pit bulls that we were trying to get to Canada. But then COVID hit and they closed the border. So then we were stuck and we had to board them. And it was a mess. But anyway, I went up there to do this welfare check and Bentley was there. And she basically like lived in a cage for 4 years. And she hardly has any teeth because she, ate rocks and just so now she is living the life. She hit the jackpot. I was like I was going to foster her. And my husband was like, there's no way you were going to. This was COVID year when I found her, 2020. So the Dodgers, we weren't traveling with them.
Right.
It was the one summer that I didn't travel. We were still doing the games, but even when the Dodgers were on the road, I was at Dodger Stadium broadcasting the game. So that was weird. Like they'd be at Wrigley playing, but I was in LA. It was very odd.
Yeah.
And then I fostered her and then I was like, oh no, I started getting some applications in. I was like, meh. And then I ended up driving her across the country from California to Mass, still saying I was fostering her, but I had to make sure that she met his kids and they were good. And,
Yeah.
It's great. She's been here 3 years.
I mean, that'll do it once you get the foster app and you're like, okay, no. And that's when you kind of know that dog's staying.
Yeah, she wasn't going anywhere.
I love it. Alanna, thank you so much for joining me. Please, everybody go click like on all of their pages, Guidry's Guardian Foundation. Sorry, I fumbled that too in my last
one. It's not easy. I really just wanted GGF, but it was
I love.
Already taken. So I had to do, and there he is. There's my Bubba. And the logo actually is a real picture I took of him. And then I had an artist just do that sketch for the logo. But thank you. You guys do such an amazing work. And I've been given your information and told about you by, people in the Chicago community that are so impressed by what you do. And, you have such an impeccable reputation. You're easy to support. You're transparent. You're good at what you do. And it's easy to collaborate with you. So thank you for all that you do. It's an honor to be on your podcast for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Alanna. I really, really appreciate the kind words. And I hope that we can work together again. I know I and Live Like Rue are on your radar, and that means a lot to me and all of the rescues too, that you have relationships. That's always our number one priority. It's shelters and rescues. So I'm always happy to help you and have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure. Truly. Thank you.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody, Alanna, who incredible guest. All of these guests have been amazing, but it's so nice to kind of almost level set with somebody that does the same exact thing that I do on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy at all. So I really, really appreciate her time. And she's in sports, which we all love. I especially love. I want to give a little shout out to my supporting sponsors. We can't do this podcast without our following supporting sponsors. Twin Tails Market and Barkery is a local family-owned business that has been serving the community for close to 7 years. Located in Palos Park, Twin Tails has everything you need to give your dogs and cats healthy and natural foods, treats, chews, toys, and much, much more. You can find them at twintailsmarket.com and on Facebook and Instagram at Twin Tails Market. The Canine PT specializes in helping senior dogs improve their independence with their daily routine as they age, heal, or recover post-surgery through exercise, massage, laser, and acupuncture so they can live their golden years without the need for pain medication. Brilliant work you're doing, Canine PT. Anything is Possible is Chicago's premier dog training company. I have sent so many people to Anything is Possible. They offer group classes for every stage of your dog's life and have a talented team of behavior specialists to work through any issues that need modification using positive reinforcement. Liz Starks at Guaranteed Rate. Check with Liz for the absolute best mortgage options. She helps when others can't and even calls it rescue loans. Buyers, sellers, or investors, give Liz a call. She can lend in all 50 states. NMLS number 224526. Kimberly Kingen Photography. Kimberly is a professional photographer from Chicago who loves animals as much as you do. That's a lot. Her pet portraiture celebrates pure love, connection, and the beauty of life with our furry loved ones by our side. Canine Therapy Corps. Give back and volunteer with your dog at Canine Therapy Corps. Volunteer teams empower and motivate individuals through goal-directed, animal-assisted therapy services free of charge across Chicagoland. Visit caninetherapycorps.org for more information. Thank you, supporting sponsors. Guys, next week, okay, we are going to be live from tape. If you are in the TV world, like Alanna and I, you know what that means. It will be pre-taped. So you won't be able to ask questions or comment live, but it'll come out like it's live and you'll be able to listen on Friday during our normally scheduled time. I'm going to the Jersey Shore for vacation. No, not Snooki Land. We go to South Jersey, much more family oriented. But Jordan and Matt will be here from Farm Animal Refuge. We helped, Live Like Rue helped a pig in their refuge named Dora with cancer diagnosis. And they do, wow, incredible work. So another week of great guests. I hope you guys join me. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.